Few road trip movies have left as big a mark on pop culture as National Lampoon's Vacation, 1983. A chaotic blend of family misadventures, absurd comedy, and Chevy Chase's unforgettable performance as the well-meaning but hopelessly clueless Clark Griswold, this film became the blueprint for all family vacation disasters to come. But how much do you really know about this comedy classic? From behind-the-scenes drama to last-minute script changes and unexpected casting choices, here are 20 things you probably never knew about National Lampoon's Vacation. It all started on a freezing winter night in 1979. Outside, a brutal snowstorm raged on, locking John Hughes inside his home with nothing but time and a mind brimming with ideas. Trapped by the relentless blizzard, Hughes did what he did best, he wrote. And what poured onto the page that night was Vacation 58, a short story destined to become a Hollywood classic. The story wasn't just any family vacation tale, it was a hilariously chaotic, slightly unhinged account of a Detroit family's road trip to Disneyland. Every twist and turn of their journey was mapped out with the precision of a road atlas, yet nothing went as planned. The father, well-intentioned but hopelessly clueless, led his family through a series of absurd misadventures, each more disastrous than the last. When Vacation 58 was published, it caught the eye of Warner Brothers. Almost instantly, the studio recognized its potential. The humor was sharp, the characters were larger than life, and the story had an undeniable charm. Without hesitation, they snapped up the rights, setting the stage for one of the most beloved road trip comedies of all time. In the early stages of development, the film was set to follow the original short story's destination, the world-famous Disneyland. It seemed like the perfect choice, an iconic vacation spot that symbolized the ultimate American family getaway. But there was one major problem: Disney was never going to approve it. John Hughes and the filmmakers knew that if they stuck with Disneyland, they'd be tangled in endless legal red tape. And given the film's chaotic, often irreverent humor, there was no way Disney would ever allow their beloved park to be the setting for such madness. So, instead of fighting a losing battle, Hughes came up with a creative workaround. He invented a brand new amusement park, Wally World. Wally World wasn't just a replacement, it became an essential part of the film's identity. Inspired by classic theme parks but exaggerated to absurdity, it was the ultimate vacation destination, massive, over-the-top, and filled with all the excitement and potential disasters the Griswold family could handle. And, of course, what made it even more legendary was the devastating final punchline: after all the chaos, all the miles, all the misfortunes, Wally World was closed. At first, Chevy Chase wasn't exactly the top choice for Clark Griswold. Director Harold Ramis had serious doubts. He worried that Chase, known for his slapstick comedy and sarcastic wit, wouldn't be able to bring the right balance of sincerity and desperation to the role. After all, Clark Griswold wasn't just a goofy dad, he was a dreamer, a man clinging to the fantasy of the perfect family vacation, even as everything around him crumbled into chaos. The role needed depth, not just laughs. But Chevy Chase wasn't about to let this opportunity slip away. Determined to prove he was the right man for the job, he delivered a performance that perfectly captured Clark's well-meaning but hopelessly misguided optimism. He played the character with just the right amount of naivety, always convinced that if he just tried a little harder, everything would magically fall into place. His portrayal was so spot-on that it erased all of Ramis's doubts. In the end, Chase didn't just win the role, he became Clark Griswold. His mix of physical comedy, deadpan delivery, and underlying sincerity turned Clark into one of the most iconic movie dads of all time. And without him, National Lampoon's Vacation might never have been the classic it is today. John Hughes originally envisioned Vacation as a story told through the eyes of Rusty, the young son of the Griswold family. This choice made perfect sense. Seeing the absurdity of a disastrous road trip through a child's perspective could have softened the more outrageous comedic moments. Rusty's innocent yet observant point of view would have provided a balance between humor and heartfelt family struggles, making the audience relate to the chaos in a more personal way. But everything changed the moment Chevy Chase stepped into the picture. His casting as Clark Griswold was a game-changer. Chase's natural charisma and impeccable comedic timing made it impossible to keep the focus on Rusty. The script was quickly reworked, shifting the spotlight onto Clark, the well-meaning but clueless father who believed, against all odds, that he could orchestrate the perfect family vacation. This shift made Vacation even more hilarious. Instead of experiencing the trip through Rusty's bewildered eyes, audiences got a front-row seat to Clark's escalating desperation. His unshakable determination, even in the face of total disaster, became the heart of the film. And while Rusty still played a key role, it was Clark Griswold who transformed Vacation from a simple coming-of-age story into a legendary family comedy. John Hughes was never one to compromise easily, especially when it came to his writing. He had crafted Vacation with his signature sharp wit and relatable family chaos, but once production began, things started slipping out of his control. Director Harold Ramis and lead actor Chevy Chase made significant changes to the script, tweaking dialogue, improvising scenes, and altering the comedic tone in ways that didn't always align with Hughes' vision. Hughes, known for his meticulous approach to storytelling, found himself increasingly frustrated. He believed the heart of Vacation was in its grounded, observational humor, but with Chase's influence, the film leaned more into slapstick and absurdity. While audiences loved it, Hughes couldn't shake the feeling that his original intent had been diluted. This experience was a turning point. Hughes realized that if he wanted full creative control over his work, he needed to step behind the camera himself. That moment of frustration led directly to his directorial debut with 16 Candles in 1984, a film that set the stage for his legendary run of coming-of-age classics. In the end, Vacation was a massive success, but it also sparked Hughes' determination to take charge of his own cinematic vision. By the time National Lampoon's Vacation entered production, the once mighty comedy empire was on shaky ground. Animal House, 1978, had been a massive, culture-defining hit, but that success didn't last. Their next two films, Class Reunion, 1982, and Movie Madness, 1983, bombed spectacularly, leaving the brand teetering on the edge of irrelevance. For National Lampoon, Vacation wasn't just another movie, it was a make-or-break moment. If this film failed, the brand's credibility in Hollywood would be all but dead. They were gambling everything on John Hughes' sharp writing, Harold Ramis' direction, and Chevy Chase's ability to lead a film to box office success. The pressure was immense. But against all odds, Vacation delivered exactly what they needed. It was a perfect storm of comedy, relatable, chaotic, and laugh-out-loud funny. Audiences loved it, critics praised it, and most importantly, it put National Lampoon back on the map. The film's success not only revived the brand but also cemented Vacation as a comedy franchise, ensuring National Lampoon would remain a household name for years to come. In 1983, Christie Brinkley was a rising supermodel, but Vacation made her a pop culture legend. Originally, her character, a stunning woman in a red Ferrari, was meant to flirt with Rusty, Clark Griswold's teenage son. But as the script evolved, the focus shifted to Clark, making the scene both funnier and more absurd. The idea of a breathtaking supermodel inexplicably seducing a clueless, middle-aged dad was comedy gold. Another key change happened behind the scenes. Originally, her late-night pool scene was scripted as a full nude moment. However, the filmmakers opted for a more playful approach, dressing Brinkley in a tight, flesh-colored bodysuit to create the illusion of nudity without crossing the line into R-rated territory. The result? A moment that was suggestive, but still light-hearted and comedic. Despite her limited screen time, Brinkley's performance became one of the film's most iconic elements. The image of her smiling from behind the wheel of that red Ferrari remains one of the most unforgettable moments in Vacation, a perfect blend of fantasy, humor, and 1980s charm. The original ending of Vacation was far more chaotic than what made it to the final cut. In the initial version, the Griswold family, furious after their disastrous journey, doesn't stop at simply finding Wally World closed. Instead, Clark takes things to the extreme, leading his family straight to the mansion of Roy Wally, the park's founder, where they kidnap him and his board of executives in a last-ditch effort to demand their perfect vacation. However, when the film was screened for test audiences, the reaction was disastrous. Instead of laughter, the ending left viewers confused and uncomfortable. The dark, almost criminal nature of Clark's actions didn't sit well with the tone of the rest of the movie. Realizing they needed a more light-hearted and satisfying conclusion, the filmmakers quickly reworked the ending. The new version was a stroke of genius. Instead of a home invasion, Clark takes matters into his own hands at Wally World itself, holding a security guard, played by the beloved John Candy, at gunpoint with a BB gun. This rewrite not only kept the film's comedic energy intact but also gave audiences a final, unforgettable moment of absurdity. When the original ending of Vacation bombed with test audiences, the filmmakers scrambled for a fix. Their solution? Bring in John Candy. The beloved comedian was cast as Russ Lasky, the overly polite yet utterly clueless security guard at Wally World. This last-minute addition turned what could have been a weak finale into one of the film's funniest moments. In the res-hot ending, instead of the Griswolds kidnapping Roy Wally, Clark holds Candy's character at gunpoint with a BB gun, forcing him to give the family a private tour of the empty theme park. Candy's deadpan delivery, combined with his awkward compliance, made the scene instantly hilarious. His performance balanced Clark's manic desperation with a subtle, almost childlike innocence, making it impossible not to laugh. This revised ending completely changed how audiences felt about the film. Instead of a dark and uncomfortable conclusion, the new scene kept the tone light, ridiculous, and undeniably funny. Thanks to John Candy's impeccable comedic timing, Vacation went from potentially off-putting to an instant classic, proving that sometimes, a single great performance can change everything. While Wally World was portrayed as the ultimate family amusement park in Vacation, it wasn't a real place. In reality, the iconic setting was actually Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. The filmmakers transformed the park with new signage and branding, making it look like the fictional destination the Griswolds had traveled thousands of miles to visit, only to find it closed. One of the most memorable moments in the film is when Clark forces the security guard, played by John Candy, to take the family on the rides. These scenes weren't faked, the cast actually rode the roller coasters, with a camera mounted on the front of the cars to capture their genuine reactions. The Revolution coaster, famous for being the first modern roller coaster with a vertical loop, became Wally World's star attraction. John Candy, despite his usual comedic confidence, wasn't a big fan of roller coasters, making his reactions even funnier. His visible discomfort on the ride added an extra layer of comedy, proving that sometimes, real-life fear makes for the best laughs on screen. Filming at Six Flags Magic Mountain seemed like a dream, until the roller coaster scenes began. While the thrilling loops and drops of Revolution made for great cinema, they were far less fun for Dana Barron, who played Audrey Griswold. Unlike her on-screen family, Barron struggled with motion sickness, making each take increasingly difficult. To get through the scene, she had to take motion sickness medication repeatedly, but even that wasn't enough. After multiple rides, exhaustion and nausea set in, making it nearly impossible for her to keep up the cheerful, excited expressions required for the scene. Yet, like a true professional, Barron powered through, ensuring the shots looked seamless. What audiences saw was a fun, carefree family enjoying the ride, but behind the scenes, Barron was battling dizziness and discomfort with every take. Her commitment to the role paid off, though. Her performance was flawless, and no one watching would ever suspect that Wally World's star attraction had nearly been her worst nightmare. Imogene Coca was a legendary comedian, but when she was offered the role of Aunt Edna in Vacation, she hesitated. The script called for her to play a cranky, unbearable old woman, a stark contrast to the lovable, quirky characters she was known for. Coca feared she wouldn't be able to convincingly portray someone so mean-spirited. But producer Matty Simmons wasn't willing to let her walk away. He knew Coca's comedic instincts were too good to pass up. With some encouragement, he assured her that a great actress could play any role, and that she had nothing to worry about. Reluctantly, Coca accepted, still unsure if she could pull it off. Once filming began, any doubts disappeared. Coca fully embraced Aunt Edna's grumpiness, delivering a performance so hilariously awful that audiences couldn't help but love to hate her. From scolding Clark to mistreating the family dog, she became the perfect embodiment of a nightmare road trip companion. Ironically, the role she almost rejected became one of the most memorable of her career. One of the funniest yet most easily overlooked moments in Vacation happens right in the Griswold kitchen. In a brief scene, Clark tries to be a helpful husband by washing the dishes. But instead of properly rinsing them, he simply wipes off the food residue with a dirty sponge and puts them straight back into the cabinet, completely unwashed. Chevy Chase loved this tiny gag, even though it was so subtle that many viewers missed it. It was classic Clark Griswold, well-intentioned but completely clueless. His confidence in doing something wrong yet believing he's being helpful made the moment even funnier for those who noticed. This kind of understated humor was a signature of Vacation. While the film had plenty of big, laugh-out-loud moments, it was small, blink-and-you'll-miss-it details like this that added an extra layer of comedy. Even decades later, sharp-eyed fans still catch new jokes hidden in the background, proving just how brilliantly crafted the film really was. Some of the best comedy comes from unexpected moments, and Vacation had its fair share of them. One such instance happened during the gas station scene, where Clark Griswold clumsily tries to remove his car's license plate. What was meant to be a simple gag quickly turned into a near accident. As Chevy Chase yanked the plate off, it suddenly went flying backward, completely unscripted, narrowly missing a nearby actress. Chase's reaction, a mix of genuine shock and awkward recovery, wasn't acting at all. It was a real moment of panic that ended up perfectly fitting Clark's character, a man who constantly finds himself in ridiculous situations but somehow plays them off like nothing happened. Instead of reshooting the scene, the filmmakers kept it in, knowing that the spontaneous nature of the moment made it even funnier. This small but authentic mistake became yet another example of Chevy Chase's natural comedic presence, where even an accident could turn into comedy gold. Filming a movie over several months can lead to unexpected challenges, and for Vacation, one of the biggest surprises came from Anthony Michael Hall, who played Rusty Griswold. During production, Hall hit a sudden growth spurt, shooting up nearly 7.5 centimeters, about 3 inches. This created a noticeable continuity issue. In some scenes, Rusty appeared as the shorter, younger-looking kid he was at the start of filming. But in later reshoots, he had visibly grown taller, almost catching up to Chevy Chase. The contrast was so obvious that if you look closely, you can see Rusty's height changing from scene to scene. Despite this, the filmmakers chose not to address it or try to hide it. In a way, it unintentionally added to the chaotic, unpredictable nature of the Griswold family adventure. Rusty's sudden growth may have been an accident, but it became another quirky detail that made Vacation all the more memorable. The Wagon Queen family truckster was more than just a prop, it was a comedic disaster on wheels. Designed to be the ultimate bad family car, it was actually a heavily modified Ford Country Squire, loaded with absurd details, an overabundance of wood paneling, mismatched headlights, and a design so ugly it became instantly iconic. In the film, the truckster symbolized everything wrong with Clark Griswold's road trip, unreliable, ridiculous, and a source of endless frustration. But what's even funnier is how it seemed to predict the fate of real-life station wagons. Around the time Vacation was released, sales of station wagons plummeted. Families started abandoning them in favor of more practical minivans and later, SUVs. While Vacation wasn't the sole reason for the decline, it certainly didn't help the wagon's image. Today, the family truckster remains a cult favorite, with die-hard fans even building replicas. It may have been a joke in 1983, but decades later, it stands as one of the most memorable, and ugliest, movie cars in history. When it came to designing the Vacation movie poster, the studio wanted something epic, something that captured the grand, over-the-top adventure of the Griswold family's disastrous road trip. Instead of a traditional comedy poster, they turned to legendary fantasy artist Boris Vallejo, known for his dramatic, muscular depictions of warriors and mythical heroes. Vallejo took inspiration from the iconic Conan the Barbarian posters, replacing Conan with Clark Griswold in full heroic glory. In the artwork, Clark stands triumphantly atop a mountain, his shirt ripped open, muscles exaggerated, and a tennis racket raised high like a mighty sword. Below him, his wife and kids cling to his legs, while chaos unfolds in the background, a perfect exaggeration of the film's ridiculous adventure. The poster was an instant hit. Not only did it perfectly parody the action-fantasy genre, but it also became one of Vallejo's most commercially successful works, leading to more commissions than ever before. Decades later, it remains one of the most unique and recognizable comedy movie posters ever created. One of the more debated moments in Vacation comes when the Griswold family accidentally drives into what the film portrays as a dangerous urban neighborhood. As they stop, a group of locals surrounds their car, and before they know it, their hubcaps are stolen right off the wheels. The scene plays out as a comedic exaggeration of Clark's cluelessness, but it carried unintended consequences. In the background, a sign reading East St. Louis is clearly visible. Though the filmmakers never explicitly stated the location, this small detail led to real-world backlash. The scene reinforced negative stereotypes and unintentionally painted East St. Louis as a crime-ridden area, something that many residents found unfair. Years later, director Harold Ramis admitted he regretted including the scene, acknowledging that it played into harmful racial tropes. While the film was meant to be a light-hearted satire of suburban fears, this particular moment aged poorly, standing out as one of Vacation's more problematic elements. In retrospect, filming Vacation wasn't just about pretending to take a cross-country trip, it actually was one. Unlike many road trip movies that rely on soundstages and green screens, this film was shot on location across 40 different states, covering more than 15 real destinations. The cast and crew essentially embarked on their own chaotic journey, mirroring the Griswold family's adventure in the film. From the busy streets of Chicago to the vast deserts of Arizona, each location brought its own challenges and surprises. The sweltering heat of the Southwest made shooting unbearable at times, while unpredictable weather occasionally forced the crew to adjust their plans on the fly. Despite the hardships, the experience helped the cast bond, making their on-screen chemistry feel even more authentic. By the time filming wrapped, the Vacation crew had completed a trip almost as exhausting as the one Clark Griswold planned. But unlike the Griswolds, at least they didn't end up at a closed amusement park. After the massive success of National Lampoon's Vacation, Hollywood knew they had struck comedy gold. This led to a series of sequels, each taking the Griswold family on a new misadventure. First came European Vacation, 1985, where Clark's disastrous planning sent the family spiraling through Europe. Then, Christmas Vacation, 1989, became an instant holiday classic, filled with unforgettable moments that still make their way into holiday traditions today. A less beloved entry, Vegas Vacation, 1997, saw the Griswolds trying, and failing, to beat the odds in Las Vegas. But not every sequel was a hit, or even remembered. In 2010, a short film titled Hotel Hell Vacation was released as part of a marketing campaign for a hotel booking website. Clocking in at just 14 minutes, it featured Clark and Ellen Griswold on yet another chaotic trip, but this time, it wasn't part of the official Vacation franchise. The short film quickly faded into obscurity, serving as a reminder that while the Griswold name still had comedic value, not every trip was worth taking. Decades later, National Lampoon's Vacation remains as hilarious and relatable as ever. Whether it's Clark's relentless optimism, the Griswold family's escalating misfortunes, or the infamous Wally world twist, the film continues to resonate with audiences of all ages. Its success not only revived National Lampoon's reputation but also kickstarted a beloved franchise that has entertained generations. So, next time you're packing up for a road trip, just remember, no matter how bad things get, at least you're not a Griswold.